Everyone, back with more Greece info. If you remember at the end of our last slideshow, we said that Sparta was failing to notice a growing power to the north. Today we're going to talk about who that growing power is, and it is going to be Macedonia. Philip II will become leader of Macedonia in 359 BC. Philip grew up in Greece and he admired everything Greek. He also wanted to defeat the Persian Empire, and he believed that he needed to unite Macedonia with the Greek city-states to do this. So that he wanted to completely eliminate the Persian Empire altogether. He trained his army to fight just like the Greeks, so they're going to fight in that phalanx formation that we took a look at earlier this year. And they're going to begin to take over Greek city-states one by one. Some he has to take by force, others are going to surrender voluntarily. Why do you think they might do this? If you're a Greek city-state and you see that Macedonia is coming in and is basically destroying other city-states, you obviously are not going to want that for your own city-state, so you're just going to surrender voluntarily because Philip's not coming in and trying to do anything crazy. He basically just wants to recruit soldiers to join his army to go take on the Persians. The Greek city-states were weak because of the Peloponnesian War. This allowed Philip to come in and pretty much dominate most of the Greek city-states. In 338 BC, the Macedonians are going to crush the Greeks at the Battle of Chaeronea, which is going to pretty much bring an end to Philip's conquest, and he's going to have control over Greece at this point. Philip is going to be murdered by one of his bodyguards, and his son Alexander is going to take over the empire at the age of 20. Even though 20 seems really, really young, Alexander was trained to rule at a young age, and he was even a commander in the army at the age of 16. Alexander started by going and freeing the Greeks still within the Persian Empire. He then headed south and captured Syria and Egypt. He's going to found the city of Alexandria, which would become one of the most important cities in the world. And we will talk about Alexandria a little bit more in our next slideshow. By 331 BC, Alexander had conquered the entire Persian Empire. He didn't stop there, though. He continued east as far as India, but his soldiers began to fear continuous war, and they refused to go any further. They were told that they were going to go and defeat the Persian Empire, which they did. So they thought that they would get to return home. Instead, Alexander wanted to continue pushing forward and see how far he could get. So his soldiers refused to go any further. They want to return back home. Alexander agrees. He doesn't put up a fight, and he leads them back home. On the return trip, thousands of his men are going to die passing through the desert. Soldiers would bring Alexander water, and he would pour it on the ground. Why do you think he would do this? If people are dying because they're not eating and drinking, why would Alexander pour water onto the ground? It was a leadership strategy. He's saying that if none of my men can have water, I'm not going to have water either. This is going to motivate his men, and it's going to make them more loyal to him because he's not taking any type of special treatment just because of who he is. By 323 BC, Alexander is going to plan to invade over near India again, but he was tired and weak from some wounds that he had suffered in battle, and he's going to die 10 days later at the age of 32. The legacy of Alexander is going to be that he rode into battle ahead of his men to motivate. So again, unlike what we saw with Xerxes in the Persian War, Alexander is going to actually fight with his men. He's not just their leader. He is out there with them in the middle of the battle. His conquests are going to mark the beginning of the Hellenistic era. Hellenistic means like the Greeks, and it's going to refer to a time when the Greek language and ideas spread. So as Alexander is conquering all of these areas, he's not just taking them over, he's spreading Greek culture. So we're going to start to see that Greek culture spread throughout all different parts of Europe and Asia during this time period. That is it for the notes on Alexander the Great.